Good.
Wonderful. Okay, so hi, my name is Kari Gregory, and I am one of the co-hosts for these calls along with Mary Hosborough. Today's call, we are going to discuss Module 4. This is Module 4 from the Clinicians Handbook for Obsessive-Compulsive Disorder, Inference-based Therapy by Kieran O'Connor and Fred Ardema. And I am going to post that link in the chat notes if I can figure out how to do two things at one time. Also, we are going to be led today by Catherine Goldhouse, Kate. Catherine received her bachelor's degree with honors from Brown University and her master's degree from Boston College School of Social Work. She acquired her clinical training at McLean Hospital, Harvard School's largest psychiatric affiliate. She trained at the OCD Institute, the nation's first and foremost treatment center for OCD, and with Fred Ardema, the creator and leading researcher of I-CBT. Catherine is in private practice where she provides online therapy to adults with OCD in Maine, Massachusetts, and Florida. And she is lucky enough to get to split her time between a peaceful lake in central Maine and the sunny southern desert of California. So Kate, I am going to turn it over to you.
Hi, everyone. So I'm Kate or Catherine. I'm Catherine Goldhouse on Facebook, but I usually go by Kate. Thanks all for being here and welcome to the new folks, especially. So in terms of training and whatnot, I'm doing one starting in October that's already full, but I will be doing the second round in January. So just feel free to reach out to me if you want more info on that. Okay, so you can see my screen now, or soon once I share it. I have that capacity, right?
Yes, you should.
Okay, cool. All right, give me one moment here. Share screen. Bear with me, my apologies. Okay. Okay. Share. Oh, wait, I messed up. I needed to do portion of screen. I'm so sorry. Advanced portion of screen. There we go. Okay. All right. Can you all see that? Just the purple thing?
Yep.
Okay, cool. All right, so feared self. So this is module 4. I made a worksheet with this exact same, the words are exactly the same as what is in this presentation. And it was sort of my alternative version of worksheet 4. And so for this presentation, I essentially took what was on the worksheet and put visuals to it. And so please feel free to use it with folks that you work with. I mean, there's kind of a patchiness right now to what is in the manual. I think things get kind of, I don't know if names change or what, but I kind of did this as a substitute. So feel free when you go over this with clients to just use this one, and you can, you know, use the dialogue and everything. All right. So why do you have your particular version of OCD? Why does one person with OCD have fears of getting contaminated, while another may have fears that they could harm someone whom they love? Based on our own values, we all have an ideal version of who we want to be and how we want to go through life, and this informs our behavior. Of course, we can also imagine a version of ourselves that we wouldn't like and wouldn't want to be. While we know as humans that we aren't always our best selves, we try to do our best most of the time, and that is good enough. We don't spend time imagining that other hypothetical version because it doesn't reflect who we are and the way we live our lives. And who we are is what we do in real life. People with OCD, however, often have self-doubt and struggle to trust themselves or even know who they really are. This makes them especially susceptible to believing that these feared versions of themselves could be real or come true. In fact, compulsions, including avoiding, ruminating, researching, and replaying, are about making sure this feared imaginary self did not, does not, and or will not come true. Being aware of your own feared imaginary self, which we can also call your OCD self, and being able to distinguish between normal doubt and obsessional doubt are two critical skills that together will help you get over your OCD. Why? Because you only have doubts that are obsessional when they relate to your feared self. Once you're able to debunk your feared self, the obsessions will start to seem silly, unsolvable, and a waste of energy to spend even a moment on. What is something that you know you are not or never have worries about becoming? Perhaps you could imagine being someone of a different gender, a non-human animal, or someone with superpowers. This is a dog who worries about being a squirrel. Okay, as an example, let's use becoming president of the United States. Let's say you are someone who has never wanted to be president and has absolutely no interest in becoming the president now. You've never run for office for anything. You think having the responsibility of a US president would be a dreadful, overwhelming burden. You're a private person and think living in the White House with your family under a microscope would be a torturous way to live. You don't follow political news very much because there are other things you find more important and more interesting. The most political thing you've ever really done is vote. Well, what if I told you that it's possible that you could become president one day? How would you respond to this? You know that, sure, technically anything is possible, but given the reality stated above, would you consider that possibility relevant? Why or why not? So I would encourage you to actually have your client answer these questions. But then they're going to say, but mine is different. Except it's not. Your obsession seems different because it touches on something about which you feel vulnerable. However, this makes it no less hypothetical and no more relevant than the example about being president. All right, so here's an example with Jenna. This is in the manual. It's not in the worksheets, but I kind of elaborated on someone who's written about in there. So Jenna cares for her children's welfare. She's attentive to their needs. She's always on hand to take her kids to school or drop them off at friends' houses. She helps them with their homework if they need it and checks in with teachers regularly to make sure her kids are getting the support they need in school. She goes to her kids' games and often takes them and their friends to and from practice. It is important to her that her kids know they are loved and feel special, so she tells them this often. So again, this is from the manual. So this is her OCD story. I am convinced that I could do bad things to my children, like smother them with a pillow or strangle them. I am always hyper aware of my hands when I'm around them, and I try as much as possible to avoid hugging or touching them. Whenever I hear a report on the news about a mother abusing or murdering children, I think that could be me. I read somewhere that deep down we all have two sides, you know, like Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, and that often what we are on the surface is the opposite of what we really feel. I'm just not always totally sure of my motives, and people can flip like that. Many murderers appear to be nice people on the outside, so I could be the opposite to who I think I am. I could be fooling everyone, even myself. So what we want to do next is a process called recentering. So we're going to recenter Jenna's doubt. So if she has the doubt, what if I smother or abuse my kids? That means that she believes I'm someone who could harm her children, right? If she has the doubt, what if who I am deep down is different than how I appear? When we recenter that, we get, I'm someone who could be different than how she appears to others. So what if I'm lying to myself about my motives becomes I'm someone who could be in denial about her motives. So the doubt and the feared self are directly related, right? So this is just, this is reframing the language just so we can see it in terms of the feared self rather than the doubt. So given what we just heard about Jenna's feared story, what kind of person would do these things? The answer is someone who deceives herself and others and is capable of violently harming her children. So the next question to ask Jenna, of course, is, are you this type of person? All of Jenna's actions and her wishes align with her desire to be a good mother. Using its classic tricks like remote possibilities, abstract out-of-place facts, and hearsay, OCD has convinced her that she could become someone that she is not, but could become if she doesn't take precautions. But Jenna's fears are clearly based on a hypothetical version of herself that is completely irrelevant to reality. So what is your feared self? So here's a blank form that you can use to go through this with your clients. So again, you'll take all of their doubts. I recommend listing those out first and then going to the other side. You don't have to do it that way. So then you're going to look at the right-hand column and look at all the I am someone who could, and you're going to see what these doubts have in common. What do they say about the person you fear you could become? So you want to go over that with clients, and you'll notice some sort of commonality, whether it's I'm someone who could be dangerous, I am someone who others are disgusted by, I am someone who ruins things, I'm someone who can't trust herself. You'll get this common denominator of all these doubts. Then you want to ask them, what is the evidence for this feared self? Why are you so convinced you could become such a person that you need to invest so much time and effort to make sure you do not? What reasoning tricks do you see in your explanation? And so by this last question, I mean, in module two, we learn about the different reasoning tricks, abstract facts, hearsay, personal experience, and the explanations you likely will have been just given for the previous two. What is the previous two questions? What is the evidence for this feared self? And why are you so convinced you could become such a person that you need to invest so much time and effort to make sure you do not? You will get these reasoning tricks in this explanation, right? And so you want to point that out, because ideally when you've gone over module two, you've helped the client see that these are tricks, that these aren't legitimate arguments. And so the feared self is also a story. And so you're starting to debunk that story that they've created and used all these all these justifications for that aren't legitimate. So the last thing I wanted to say is this concept of the selectivity of the doubt. So the selectivity of the doubt refers to how if you have OCD, how there are certain things that you will focus on whereas others you don't. So why is someone obsessed with germs and washes their hands, but they don't worry about breathing in particles or whatever? How can you, pointing out these sorts of differences, these inconsistencies, is another way to highlight this feared self. It's another way to get at things. So even though the selectivity of the doubt is actually addressed more in more depth in a later module, I think it's 5 or 6. I think it's also helpful to keep in mind here. So just something to know as well. And that's it. That's all I got.